Hi there. I'm Joe Dudeck, president and founder of Keyhole Marketing.
And I'm Shannon Jirik. I work for Keyhole as the assistant brand manager.
And this is Metaphorically Speaking, a podcast that explores the mysterious side of marketing. Hello again, and welcome to Metaphorically Speaking. This is Joe Dudeck. You haven't heard me on the intro in a long while. Shannon's
you're stealing my line here. It's kind of weird. It's weird for me.
I know. I definitely don't belong here. I feel like we should do a recut of this entire thing already.
But just start it over. It's okay. You handle it really well. I'm impressed. I know that hello line, that intro greeting line is just, it's really taxing. So.
It's brutal. It's scary. It's scary to get this thing started. Yeah, for sure. I see why I always handed the mic to you for that.
You're always giving me the hard work. I know.
I know. Definitely the hardest. Well, thanks for joining us. This is our last episode of 2021.
Wow.
And sadly, Shannon's last episode here at Keyhole. She's moving on to bigger, better things in her life. So
you say it in such a poor way. It's not bigger and better things. It's just different things. Okay.
Yeah, I guess they're different things. Yeah, those are always my words. You never have told me you can't wait to get out of here, or anything like that. But no, I'm excited for her and where she's going for her future and what's next for her, whatever that may be. But certainly a little bit melancholy inside over this being the last one. This has certainly been a ton of fun for me to do with her. And I'm not saying that's going away completely, but it is going to be kind of put the pause on this for a little bit. Just a good time to end the season and slide into 2022 and kind of figure out what the next phase is. But no, this has been so much fun with Shannon. She's clearly the better person for this gig than I am. She's been much better trained than I have in this arena. But
you've really come into your own in this space, though. Again,
I think about
it.
Here's what's funny. So when we first recorded this show, we did our first season that we were talking about the 5 pieces of telling your business story. And I think we recorded that 3 times because it was, I mean, maybe more than that. We probably did a dry run before we hit record, and then we hit record, and then we did it again the next day, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then a week
like
or 2 later, I was like, I am not happy with this. We need to cut this thing again. And I mean, it was a little bit weirder time back then. I mean, nowadays with COVID, nobody cares as much with the quality of the audio. But back then I was so intense of like, if we're going to do this thing, we're going to do it right. People are going to expect
to be the best.
Yeah. I want them to think we were in the greatest studio ever. And we were in this, we were in my wife's old business, which have met in this farmhouse. And just, the sound was wafting away in the echoes of the room. And
the air conditioning was just like,
oh yeah, air conditioning. Which we didn't even have good equipment, so I couldn't even hear it really. It was just sort of this drum in the back, and then I didn't think, oh, nobody can hear that. And then you listen to it, and it's all you hear is behind our voices. So we have upgraded it a little bit since then, and hopefully I've improved from your tutelage. I appreciate it.
Well, and the funny thing too, you always joke with me about, I have a background in performing arts, but I'm so scripted about everything. I mean, that was so just true. My theater background. You had to memorize a script, right? You didn't really get to do improv or anything. So this medium was honestly pretty stressful. So I'm like, Joe, we have to script it out. And we spent hours and hours and hours writing these seasons out only to hate it and redo it several times.
Exactly. Well, because we're so different.
All right, Shan, we're not scripting this anymore.
No. And maybe you probably did on your end. I don't even know at the last time we could have, but
that's my secret still.
I wonder what those notes were in front of you the whole time. No, we're so different. I was literally let's have 5 bullet points, and then I'll verbally process the entire podcast, and I'll see where it lands. And you're like, that could be 3 hours of you figuring out what you want to say. And she was much more efficient with her words, but so then when I try to do that, I'm much more the next thing that I wanted to say was this, So it was we figured out a good pairing for it, but I totally forgot about the scripting of your side of it.
So we both really grown quite a bit in this medium.
For sure. It's been a lot of fun. We started the whole thing too, just before we got into the business stories, capturing business stories with business owners. We just did a couple seasons, and those were fun. Like I said, we did the 5 parts of telling your business story and trying to
Mhm.
unpack that, and then we came back with a pretty simple topic of, fears of the business owner, you
So
know?
simple.
Yeah,
Which
very
is
easy,
funny
like
because remember we thought it was going to be simple and then we were like,
yeah,
"Oh shoot,
shit.
this is a huge topic."
Yeah, like, we're gonna be researching this the rest of our lives. Um,
Uh-huh.
so then we tried to consolidate to, like, 5 or 6 episodes and, did it, but, you just felt like you didn't even scratch the surface, but
Exactly.
and we did all that, which is kinda crazy, like, pre-COVID. It wasn't like, um it wasn't even related to, like, the fears of life. It was more, like, related
Yeah.
to just the challenges of running a business and the things you run up to, and I still think, like, just especially some of the episodes, like, on the science of fears and that kind of stuff, like, it's probably would be good to go back and listen to those, on what we've just encountered the last, year and a half, 2 years almost. Um, and
Yeah, I felt like we were ahead of the time for sure there
for
without
sure,
even
yeah.
realizing it.
Yeah, we were the Fauci of podcasts. We could definitely see the next pandemic on the
That's
way.
right.
So, no, I definitely would, like, encourage you, as listeners to take a listen to those episodes. It's been a while since we probably plugged those, and we've been on more of a consistent theme of capturing stories of business owners, but I think, like, those were intense, but also, like, super helpful for me on several levels on the fears of ownership, but also just fears in life and how our bodies hold those things and how we process those things, and yeah, pretty heavy, but
Yeah, absolutely.
hopefully
I like
helpful.
that we didn't just focus on the business side of it for that season too. You've
Yeah,
got fears coming in from everywhere in your life, like you said. So it was an interesting season just to kind of discover the signs of your mind and your body and
yeah,
translating that into the business world. So
exactly.
for sure.
So this episode, what we're trying to capture is just some of our favorite stories that come to our mind from the last
Yeah.
year and a half to almost 2 years again. So we obviously couldn't cover every business owner over the last, 24 months, but we just kind of picked out a few that stood out in our minds. So don't be offended if you didn't make the cut. It wasn't intentional. Maybe it was
We
intentional for a
were
couple of you, actually. I'm
I mean,
just
we're
joking.
so grateful for everyone that participated for sure. And I think it's so cool because we've gotten a chance just to encounter and meet some incredible people in the Colorado Springs business community. And
Yeah,
we've really kind of dipped our toe in a lot of different industries too, which is fun. We've not just talked to other marketers necessarily, we've seen
for
just a
sure.
variety of industries and gotten to hear their stories and end up discovering how they are connected to each other. It's fun just to learn like, oh, I know
Yeah,
him or I know her. And
yeah,
so we've
exactly.
just really created a cool community in these episodes that we're really grateful for sure.
Yeah, and we definitely get geeked out about it. I mean, I hope it's as fun for the guests, but I mean, it's just so fun to be able to extract a story from a business owner, which is what we do in our
Mhm.
our work at Keyhole. So it's fun to find this medium and do the same thing, kind of put them under the light a little bit, and get them to tell the stories that they already know, who they are and what makes them who they are. And
Mhm.
yeah, it's just been fun to walk that path with them and hopefully give them a little bit of plug and promotion in their own space. But
Yeah, and just a chance for them to kind of get that out there because there's a lot of things that you don't know about a business or a company. It's not on their about page or their
true,
website, but
yeah,
there's so much context to who they are and how their business got going. So this
yeah.
platform's just been fun because we get to kind of dive into some of that stuff that you wouldn't, maybe never know about the person who's cutting your hair or serving your drink or something like
Yeah,
that.
exactly, exactly. And it all started with, Casey Ross from Axe in the Oak, did that in January of 2020, which seems like 3.5 decades ago.
It
Um,
does feel like so long ago.
yeah, it's definitely a different era. We did that in a legit podcast studio downtown and,
Mhm.
sat less than 6 feet from each other. I mean, it was we weren't right on top of each other, but there wasn't the social distancing, that we're all accustomed to now, and, that was a
And this
that
was
was
one of
a
your favorites because you got to drink during that
That's what I was about to say. It
episode.
was a high bar, like all the podcasts thereafter. I don't think nobody brought me drinks after that, so that was kind of sad. But I'm sure I had a few drinks at other times I recorded it, so I wasn't completely parched. But yeah, it was a fun. He brought a bottle of his whiskey, and we shared a glass or two during the interview, which was fun. I think you and I did the same thing when we recorded the intro,
Yeah, we
if I remember right.
did.
Yeah,
In the spirit of meeting Casey and learning about
right.
his business,
We
we had
needed to
to
get
just
connected
keep
to
that
who he was.
going.
Exactly. We
That's
didn't want to
right.
just. So no, that was fun. I remember though, like again, kind of an indication that we were a little ahead of our time. We talked about like how crazy it was that we entered 2020. Like it seemed like we should have a
Mhm.
Y2K or an apocalyptic kind of experience, and then come 3 months later, we kind of had that. But um,
I think we're prophets. I don't think we're the good kind of
yeah,
prophets, but
maybe
it's
that's
prophets.
the shift of the podcast we should do is just like what's next for your business. We already see it. Listen to the podcast to tell you.
Exactly.
So
We could really capitalize on that.
yeah. So did you have any like things that stood out when you reflected on that particular podcast?
I think what was so fun about Casey is we got to hear, quite a bit about his work history before he kind of founded Axe in the Oak. And, we talked to a lot of people that didn't necessarily have a path in mind when they, graduated college or started a
Hmm.
career. But with Casey, he was just all over the map. I mean, his work experience leading up to starting Axe in the Oak was, it just felt limitless. I mean, he did so
Yeah.
many things. He traveled around the world, and he had a fun background in automotive work, and then also like theater and stage design and stage management and all that. I didn't even totally follow everything that he did because he kind of just seemed like a well-rounded man of all talents.
So true.
But a couple things that I remembered from his episode was that he got to work as the stage manager for Batman. And he was also part of like a Bob the Builder tour as well. So
Yeah.
he just had a
Which
lot of kind of
feels
fun stories from like, oh, I did this show and this show. And he was so nonchalant about it. But we're like, oh
yeah.
my gosh, like these are a big deal.
Yeah. And I remember he said like his mom was just worked on cars a lot. So he got some cars and he was in
Yeah.
high school. I thought that was kind of unique.
Oh, yeah.
Well, and you said the Batman thing. He also just slid in there quickly. Like Sam Heughan was a part of one of the shows or something like that, which at the time I didn't really know who he was. Now I'm fully aware because my wife's made me fully aware who Sam Heughan is. But
Well, and I
that
think
was,
Casey said in the episode, "Sexiest man in Scotland" or
yeah,
something.
he was definitely more intrigued by Sam than maybe my wife. I don't know. Which I can understand that. It's a good looking dude, but so yeah, I slid that in there. And then I just loved, and I've experienced this too. If you've been to the distillery, I just love how they were intentional about creating a space to share stories with other people. And that
Mm,
was kind of the original idea of Axe in the Oak, and how they came up with the name and how they came up with the product. Just some guys getting together and dreaming up this business, and then being intentional about creating that kind of space. And it's even with during COVID, it still had that feeling and that vibe that
mm.
you just have stories to tell, and you would just want to drink to be able to kind of open up some of those avenues of the discomfort or whatever you're trying to share those stories. And it's just like, yeah, the combination of that, the setting, the vibe, the whole experience is, they've just done a really good job of that. And of course, that's what we hope to do on the podcast. So I'm just so love so much that he's done the same thing with his business.
Yeah, I think what we kind of said about him was, I mean, he is his brand. Like he just matches this culture that he's created, and I think that's what's so impressive sometimes about these small business owners is, their businesses are just an extension of who they are, and that's when it
Yeah.
feels so real. It isn't, oh, we're pretending, or oh, it looks like X, Y, or Z. It's like, no, I'm Casey. This is who I am. This is who my community is. Like I want to create a space that represents that, and I think he does that really well. So
Yeah.
it's a
For sure.
special community there for sure.
For definitely. So then the next one, which again, we were not trying to go one at a time, but the one that stood out was Jason Crampton from Lincoln Street Barbers. Maybe part of that is because I just got a haircut with him today, so my hairs
Ooh,
are
nice.
feeling connected. Yeah, and we kind of had that connection from the very beginning of this episode. We had like this, I don't know, 5 or 6 minute conversation about beards and cutting it and the regrets of cutting it and how can we get
That
it
was
to grow back
such
quicker.
It was an entertaining conversation for sure. I felt like I was invading on this like intimate moment. Like as I was listening to the interview, it's just like as
Yeah.
a beardless female, I just don't belong here.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think most of your interview was about beards. You barely scratched the surface on the business.
Yeah, I don't know anything about the business actually. We just went into the beard thing. No, and then yeah, he still has a great beard today. I think we both learned from our mistakes of the past of like, let's shave this off and get a new fresh start, and then you regret it as soon as you lift your head and see
Never
yourself in the mirror.
again.
Yeah, and then our wives are like trying to find ways to, be disconnected from us for 3 or 4 months,
I'm
however
gonna go
long it's gonna
on
take.
a 3-week vacation.
Exactly.
You've got the kids. Let me
Yeah.
know when the hair is back.
Yeah, don't take any photos, don't Instagram anything. I don't wanna see anything until I'm back. No, so that was definitely a symbiotic connection from the get-go, but he's, I mean, I've got a good friend who started a salon back in Indianapolis, um, I think in 2019, and different business. I mean, it's not a barber shop, but, I've talked to this friend a lot about starting his own business and the challenges of that, and so it was good to connect with Jason on kinda his experiences with that and the challenges of in this particular space, whether it's staff turnover or
Mm,
you know challenges of people you're working with are trying to serve, and just his story to get there was also pretty unique. It wasn't like this traditional let's go to this training thing. I mean, he did all that stuff as well, but it just wasn't a clear cut, no pun intended, navigation
nice.
to thanks, navigation to his role in his business. But yeah, I
Mm,
love his approach to business too. It's kind of messy and dirty intentionally. Like it's trying
yeah.
to serve the marginalized, the people on the outside of the fringe, I guess, a little bit
Mhm.
versus, the business, the, the guy in a three-piece suit type of person.
I think that comes through in what they kind of call their crew, which is the civilized misfits. I
Yeah,
just love that.
exactly.
I mean, you never
Yeah.
hear that kind of terminology, I feel like in general, but especially at a salon. And
Hmm.
he's so just like respectful of the people that work for him, and
Yeah.
again, it was just so clear that the people are what makes the business. And I just loved that. He spoke so well of his team and his clients, and I just have a lot of respect for those kinds of business owners. So, and
Yeah.
I love too. He talks about kind of his journey, and right now he only has male clients, but he didn't necessarily start there. So he had this line
Hmm.
where he said, "I was terrified to cut hair. I never brushed a woman's hair. Now I'm trying to cut it," and I just thought that was entertaining. Like I have this
Yeah.
funny visual of him just like awkwardly trying to brush this woman's hair.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. I picture him standing like, I don't know, too far away from that person, just arm
exactly.
outstretched, awkwardly running this brush through somebody's hair. I'm sure he's gotten more comfortable with that, but it's kind of like me doing a podcast, dude. Just it's the same metaphor.
Just
Um,
fumble through it, fake it till you make
exactly.
it, right?
That's right. That's right.
What was neat about him and Casey as well is your first two interviews were locals to Colorado Springs, which you said you hadn't seen a lot of at this point. I mean, I know you hadn't been in the Springs for maybe more than 6 months at that point, but you encountered pretty much everyone that had moved into the Springs versus being born there. So he called himself like a local Sasquatch, which I thought was cool. He's like, it's just more rare to find, people who have been born and raised in the
It's
Springs.
so true. And that's the funny thing is the first two people I talked to were both from the Springs, and I was like, I've not met any of you up until this point. So,
Exactly.
and I think I've had actually a pretty good run of people. There's, I think,
Yeah.
Kids on Bikes was also somebody from local. I want to say, um, the Dream Accounting Solutions. I think she was also local. So there's been a
Mhm.
few that come to mind that I was like, I didn't even know you existed. What is going on?
You found the gems.
Yeah.
Have you ever torn the house apart looking for your wallet, only to find that it's in your pocket? Or pulled all the clothes out of the dresser to locate the belt that's already around your waist? Sometimes we're blind to what's right in front of us. The same is true of your small business marketing strategy. You want to meet your marketing and sales goals. You want to spend money and see a profit. You want to invest your time and see it produce a return. You want your marketing strategy to be better, but you can't see how to do it. So you just keep doing it blindly, while the tools for success are dangling in front of you. Like those keys you misplaced. Psst, check the key ring. In setting out to solve this problem, we created the Squint Test, a simple, fast, and free marketing assessment tool that gives you an instant glimpse at your marketing efforts, including its strengths, weaknesses, and opportunities. It shows you where you're excelling and what needs attention. Even more, it shows you where specifically you should consider investing your marketing efforts and dollars. All it takes is 2 minutes to answer 10 questions. Honesty encouraged for best results. Once you complete the Squint Test, our team will review your results, formulate custom recommendations for your small business, and be in touch with next steps. If you have more questions or see something you're eager to run after, we'd be happy to help. Take the free test today at keyholemarketing.us/marketing-assessment.
So then, like, after, and not right after Jason, we actually did one more episode with True North Chiropractic. It was really like the last day before everything shut down for COVID.
Mm-hmm.
I remember it was kind of more and more was being heard about it, but things were still open. We were able to get one more recording in the studio before that shut down, and then transition into what we call the Causing COVID series, which was pretty fun. I say that maybe fun isn't the right word, but um, pretty like insightful experience to be able to get insight from businesses who are trying to keep their doors open through COVID. You know, nobody's experienced a pandemic before,
Mm-hmm.
um, and so you're trying to figure out, how do I not lose a ton of business? How do I keep supplies going? How do I keep staff coming in? How to keep people safe? So we talked to a wide collection of businesses, which was fun. Just did some quick interviews, which again was applicable to that time, but it's um, still helpful even today. Not just
Yeah.
now, but probably at any time, because it just talks about their ability to be flexible and transition quickly on the fly, or even as much as you can create some systems and processes to get out ahead of unexpected experiences.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and also maybe just being honest about, like, you can't shut everything down. So things like your marketing, for example, I'll put that plug in there a little bit, but like, how do you just transition from your traditional way of doing things, um, but not throw everything out the window. You still have to have those conversations and still have to
Yeah.
be in front of your customers. So that was interesting to hear some of those stories.
Yeah, super cool to see how well people were able to adapt and pivot. And I think you're right, it was kind of based on right when COVID started, but I still think the stories are applicable. I mean, I think if COVID has done anything, it's shown us that, like, wow, big challenges can hurdle at us really quickly, and how do
Hmm.
we adapt to those? And maybe people are better suited to do that in the future when other things come up.
Yeah,
And I
exactly.
think it was cool in this series because we did get to kind of talk with a lot of different industries. I know I mentioned that a little bit earlier, but we spoke in kind of the health and wellness or lifestyle arena, athletics, food and drink, church, government. There was just kind of a lot of different
Yeah,
conversations, and
yeah.
I just like that we were able to kind of hear a lot of different voices in a lot of different spaces. And I also
Hmm.
appreciated, I don't know what the percentage is necessarily, but some of them honestly admitted like they did better than others. Some of them adapted
Yeah.
better and kind of pivoted better, and others just said like, no, we had a hard
Hmm.
time. Like we were just trying to survive. And so I
Yeah.
really appreciated kind of just the realness and the vulnerability that COVID kind of forced. Like, hey,
Yeah.
we're not doing well, but we still have the fight. Like we still want to stay open. We still care about our clients, and we're here trying to figure out how to best serve the people that we care about.
Ex-
And
yeah.
so I just thought that was really neat.
Yeah. And that was like the intention, is to find businesses that, we're not trying to find all the positive stories. Like, gas stations. I don't know, somebody who was doing really well. Grocery stores, how are you doing? Yeah, like I'm
Mhm.
sure there was some hurt, but there's businesses like that, of course, that had to continue to provide services. But it was more like we weren't trying to find all the polished stories. We're trying to find a variety from different industries, and you may be really hurting and you're struggling, and that's okay. Like maybe to tell your story can help you process some things, and maybe some people can help you in that journey as well. So
Absolutely.
definitely a unexpected series that we weren't planning to do, but we were grateful for that opportunity for them to take time out of their day, and that kind of transitioned us into this online only recording world. Um,
Mhm.
when people care a little less about the quality of the recording, that is a little less stressful for me. So that was nice.
Yes,
Um,
yes.
so it's been good. Um, the next one we kind of just listed again. There's many good stories between the causing COVID and this next episode, but Gayla Bustos and Brittany Wynn from the Property Mommies. Um,
Ooh.
they were, I mean, they were fun from the get go. I remember
Yeah.
they were just like more than excited. I definitely more excited than I was to even make the ask. Not because I, not because I wasn't interested in them, but I just probably just did a general ask, and they're like, yes. Well, I mean, within seconds, it was like I was like, do you want to think about it at all? Or you want to talk to somebody somebody else? Um, or who's handling it? I think I did it through like Instagram Messenger because I didn't have any like email or something like that. And the response was immediate, and I was thinking, are you authorized to say yes? I don't know who's managing the social
Are
media
you like a
account.
high schooler
Yeah,
intern, just
yeah.
running the
She's
social
like,
media?
we'll do it. Exactly. Um, so
No,
no, that
theirs
was a fun
was.
episode.
I thought theirs probably of all of them was just the most like vibrant, if you will. And I think if you go
Yeah.
back and listen to it, Gayla's voice just shines through quite loud and proudly for sure. And I think
Yeah.
honestly, what was funny too is just the difference in their personalities. Without even knowing them, you can kind of figure out some things about both of them and how they run the business and who they are as people. So you just kind of have two pretty different personalities. One maybe a little bit more trying to kind of keep the reins on the professionalism of the episode, and the other just saying, "Let's have a good time,"
Yeah, yeah.
So
And
just a
there
fun
were a few
balance.
stories that we couldn't even share on the podcast because I think
Yes.
Brittany shut it down. She's like, "No, let's be professional." And then when I stopped recording, I was like, "You got to tell me these stories." So
That's right. We need
they're in the
to
vault. I can't share them now,
know.
but it was kind of fun. Like you just knew there were some wild stories with the property
That's
mommies that
right.
didn't even make the cut.
Well, and they're kind of exceptional too, I guess, in the people that we've talked to because they also have a pretty big TikTok presence. I think,
Sure. Yeah.
back not too long ago, but for them, they were like, "Hey, let's run after this kind of vlog concept."
Yeah.
Back when it started becoming popular to do videos over photos, and they really just like landed on that and just decided, "Hey, this is going to be our platform, and why can't we make real estate fun? And why can't we showcase our true personalities?
Yeah.
Like we're going to."
Exactly.
And they ended up just getting like a pretty big following on TikTok, and you just like don't hear that a lot, especially for real estate agents. I feel
For
like.
sure, they found a different medium for sure. I think about all the stuff that they get in the mail, the typical postcards and the smiling happy people in there, you know.
Stock photos.
Yeah, exactly. And you're like, is that even
Yeah.
you? Who is this person? Um, and they cut through the clutter by finding a new medium. They're certainly weeding out people
Mhm.
who aren't interested in what they offer, and that's okay. They're okay with that.
Yeah.
And they do a lot of they work well with the military community, having military backgrounds. I think both their husbands were in the military, and
Mhm.
so that's a good niche for them that probably bridges the gap. Even if you're not a TikTok fan, you know they can speak your language in that space. So yeah, I think they're doing
Yeah.
a good job and finding a good path.
Yeah, I thought they spoke to the military community really well because you hear that in a lot of our episodes. People understand that the Springs is heavily populated, but with
Hmm.
Gayla and Brittany, it was very personal. So that was a cool
Yeah.
perspective, just because it was more just real life for them.
Yep. Exactly. So then Bobby and Brooke McCulis, I should probably have checked the pronunciation, but I think that's right, from Kinship Landing. I haven't met Brooke actually. We haven't been able to. Wasn't she wasn't able to redo the recording like we had
Yeah.
hoped, and then there's another time I was in there and I wasn't able to connect with her, but I know she does exist. I just haven't got a chance to see them. And they're a husband and wife team. They started this boutique kind of hotel downtown, and it's a really unique model. I mean, I haven't stayed there yet, but first of all, their approach is really trying to get locals to act like a
Mhm.
tourist. They'd love for you to stay somewhere in your backyard and not feel like you have to go out of town,
Yeah.
which I think is a lot of fun. Just because
Yeah,
you'll
it's so
probably miss so
unique.
much.
Who does
Yeah,
that?
yeah, exactly. You miss so much of just your regular things that are available to you, especially if you grew up out here. It's more. I don't know that I'm quite the target audience because I'm still fairly new out here. Everything's new and exciting, so I want to do all the new stuff. But if you've lived out here a long time, like they do a good job of making sure you're not missing some events or venues
Mhm.
around you to be able to participate. And their room design is super unique and cool.
Oh, it's so
Um,
cool. Yeah. I don't even remember all the options. I just like can't get past the one that looks like you're like camping outside, but
yeah,
you're
there's that
inside.
one. Exactly. You've got a nice view of Pikes Peak, and then there's a couple,
Mhm.
like another one with like shared um, like bunk beds, which again, I'm sure that was a
Oh.
challenge in COVID, but I think not shared in the sense of you have to share with somebody else, but I think it's a shared room, and then there were bunk beds in the room. Um, but yeah, it's finding, and again, I'm sure they had to really struggle with some of that during COVID of what's available and how do we manage this. And I'm not sure how
Mhm.
how much they've been able to keep those things up and running, but I love the creativity and you know they're pretty intentional about again creating spaces to get people to connect and to
Mhm.
bring different crowds together in their space. The business person who might want to come over for a coffee or the person who's out of town mixing with the guy who lives three houses down the
Mhm.
street, so I loved, and they've been doing that I think out of their house for years. And
Right.
um, yeah, I think they said they first had the idea on some of their travels and some of their excursions internationally that this idea could work, and I love what they came up with.
Yeah, they have a really cool background for how they kind of got to where they are. Hospitality just ingrained in both of them from
Mm,
birth, basically.
yeah,
So when they kind of connected and, were dating and got married, just travel and staying in hostels and just learning the locals and every place that they visited was just so important to them. And
yeah,
this year-long trip that they took around the world kind of inspired the idea for Kinship Landing. And I just thought it was really neat. They kind of structured their trip in like three sections. It was like let's rest, then let's dream, and then let's plan. And they just committed to this idea. And we got to visit the space, and it's really beautiful. And I
yeah,
think their mission to kind of inspire friendship and courage and intimacy is also really unique. I especially love the courage one. I think that you don't hear as much in this kind of setting. Friendship, maybe intimacy, maybe you're in a cafe or a bar and you're having conversation. But I think courage just has a whole new element to it that
yeah,
is
for
really
sure.
special in what they do.
Yeah, there's definitely, as far as I know, nothing like it. Definitely nothing like around here, and to be able to make that leap and not just do the traditional offering of lodging or hotel, like that was
Hmm.
definitely brave of them. And a little quick shout out to Echo Architecture who designed that space. We interviewed them as well, and it was just fun to see their handiwork. Um,
Hmm.
we just saw they've got so many cool creations around the city, but that was as we sat there and worked in the coffee shop, like you're just taking in all the design elements and stuff like that. So that was props to them for making the dream of Bobby and Brooke a reality and doing it so well.
Absolutely, absolutely.
So the last one we were going to talk about was Gather Mountain Blooms, three sisters at this farm down on the south side of Colorado Springs. And
Yeah, you got to actually visit this one, which was
yeah, I
cool.
actually met him in person. That was again kind of weird to look at somebody and ask them a question, not just stare at them on the screen. We tried to do it earlier, had some technical difficulties, and then just said, "Hey, let's just do this in person." So that was fun.
Mhm.
Um, it was, and I know you gave me a hard time about like asking a tough question out of the gate,
Oh my
or
gosh,
at least
yes. So Joe asked him this question to
Mhm.
start off the episode, and then there's just this long, long pause, and you just kind of like can hear the emotion. They start
Yeah,
crying. And I mean, it was a great moment. It was honestly a beautiful moment. There was clearly just like intimacy and context here, that they brought us into, and we're so grateful for that. But I couldn't help but laugh to myself because I'm like, how many women has Joe made cry? I mean, like, let's add these women to the list because I'm
Yeah.
sure it's long.
Unfortunately, probably more than I know, yeah. Um, this one wasn't necessarily my fault this time, so that was a good thing. Um,
Fine, we'll give you
yeah,
that
it
credit.
was a it was definitely surreal because I was a little nervous, like, what did I pull it like, pull the covers back on something that I had no idea that there was some drama or what happened here. You get a little bit of research, on people's websites and what's available, but, and I could tell with their story particularly, like, there was definitely some health challenges with
Mhm.
Nikki, who founded the business and then brought the other sisters into the business. But um, so I knew a little bit of that, but I didn't really know the life histories of like Leah and Abby and some of their decisions to join the business and
Mhm.
some of the challenges prior to that. So it was definitely like, oh crap, should we start with another question? Like, what do you like about the weather? I don't know. Like, where should we go from here?
Right.
But they navigated it well, and, you could just tell, like, sweet, they trusted me with the question, they trusted
Mhm.
me with the answer, and, yeah, I was grateful for being able to navigate with that with them.
Yeah, and again, I think that's what we've appreciated so much about some of our conversations is this podcast is a space that we wanted to create for people to be real with us,
Yeah,
and that's exactly what came through in their episode. And
yep,
that's just, I mean, it's something that we're grateful for. And
yeah,
this one was, I think, especially fun for me just because I'm one of I'm one of 6 kids, but I have 2 sisters as well. So there is
mhm,
something about the dynamic of 3 sisters that I kind of understand
mm,
there. And I know,
mhm,
we're different ages and obviously different people, but there's just kind of like I felt that connection. I understood some of the context that maybe they didn't even have to say, but
mhm.
um, I just kind of knew, having 2 sisters of my own. I probably would
Yeah.
never go into business with my sisters.
Yeah.
I'm more of a let's go into business with my brothers kind of person, but still, there's just you.
Well, that's so fun about this is like, yeah, the couples who go into business together or the sisters, the same. I'm always like, "What are you doing? I could never imagine." And I'm always like asking them the question, or either on or off the recording, like, "What do you think? Like, what are you doing? What's going on?"
You do. You've asked it like every time.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah,
so you work with your wife in business. How does that
yeah. I'm
go
trying
for
to like,
you?
yeah. It's like, what is like? Are you still married? Are you pretending? Like, what's going on? So I just know in my world, I think we've gotten better at it, Lindsay and me, but I still think like we're just vastly different people. And for us, we need separation of work and life and stuff. So it's good for
Yeah.
us. But um, and maybe it's not even a challenge like you're doing it right or wrong, but more of a sense of like, how do you even do that? How do because I think even us, Lindsay and me, we work out of the same house across the hall from each other. And that's kind of a challenge. How do you take your work hat off and like now go have dinner together 5 feet away from
Mhm.
where you just worked the entire day? So I can't really imagine. I'll probably always be talking work, and I think like it's good on them. I think they all do, and especially these sisters. I think they all showed like how well they love working with each other. We
Mhm.
went back and visited a few weeks later and actually cut some flowers at their farm. And again, they could have been putting on a show, but they seemed like the real deal. They really enjoyed spending time with each other and um, just are passionate about learning this thing. I mean, that's the beautiful thing
Mhm.
too. They're not like super super trained, but they're honest about all the things they don't know, and
Mhm.
they're excited about the next thing they can learn. So I think that was fun to hear from them, is they weren't so like um, you know proud of like we're this is our business and we're so highly trained and you need to come to us because this is just very honest to be like, hey, we love it and this is super rewarding, fulfilling for
Mhm.
us, and we hope can offer that to somebody. So it was fun to see.
Well, and it's cool because they all clearly have different skill sets too.
Yeah,
They're coming from very different backgrounds and different careers, before opening the flower farm. And that's obvious too. They're not all doing the same thing. They all very much have like their kind of arenas that they excel in. So
yeah, exactly. So that's it. That's what we
cool.
some of the stories that came to our mind over the last several months. And again, there's so many more we could have unpacked, and had so much fun hearing all of the stories of entrepreneurs, and we hopefully get a chance to kind of continue this and unpack some more. But
Yeah,
just
it's a
celebrating
blast
what
to
we've
just
done so
kind of
far.
reminisce on everything.
Yeah,
Like it feels like
exactly.
it's been so long. I had to refresh my memory on some things, but
I know,
we've
I
had
know.
a
Like
lot
I
of
said,
fun.
with COVID, it
Yeah.
seems like everything's forever ago, but it's been super fun to do this with you. And, thanks for trusting me with this opportunity and honestly making me better at this craft. And
I know. I'm sad to say goodbye, but I'm so grateful for all the fun we've had.
definitely, definitely. Well, we'll wrap up this season and we'll see what's next. So thanks for joining us. Take care.
You've been listening to the Metaphorically Speaking podcast. At Keyhole Marketing, we tell big stories for small businesses. If you're in the Colorado Springs area and ready to tell your business story, we'd love to come alongside you and help you with your content, branding, SEO, social media, or photography needs. For an instant glimpse at your current marketing's strengths, weaknesses, and opportunities, take our free marketing assessment at keyholemarketing.us/marketing-assessment, or send us an email at hi@keyholemarketing.us and let us know how we can help tell your story.